following is a night owl presentation.
Hi everybody, it's Raul Smith and welcome to another edition of The Closing Tag, episode 10. That is the episode name and the episode number because the name of the episode is A Perfect 10. We talk a lot of stuff today. We talk a lot about Jeff Bezos going to space. We talk about React 18 coming down the pipeline very briefly. We talk about Python potentially helping brain tumors. We talk about what's next for the Celtics and Danny Ainge. We also talk about the WWE, surprisingly, and what's next for them, and also what's next for Kemba Walker in Oklahoma City. So a lot of bullet points, a lot of stuff being tossed about. We may even throw in a few other additional topics post-production. So yeah, a lot of important stuff going on. Also a major update on the site build and also some other news. So as always, I want to thank the sponsors that help keep this train rolling along, I guess. The one sponsor is Galactic Blue, your professional web development, graphic design, and logo design resource. Visit galacticblue.net for more information on how your business can benefit from our services. And the Telltale Heart, now being selected for film festivals in Argentina and Venezuela. So they're not only just racking up awards and appearances in the indie and short film circuits here in the United States, but also throughout the world. So visit telltalemovie.com for more information on how you can find the film in your area. And a very special announcement. I don't know when the interview is going to take place. It's probably going to take place around the 4th of July. But we do have our second big time interview for the closing tag lined up and ready to go. This is a good one. It's not as good as James Scott, but this is good in a different way. A good buddy of mine, Ben Phipps, is going to be on the podcast next episode. He is going to be talking with me about really anything and everything. Tech. He's a web developer like I am, so we're definitely going to be talking shop. We're going to be talking jazz. We're going to be talking politics. We're going to be talking Jeff Bezos. We're going to be talking, the environment. Just pretty much it's a wide open slate. So yeah, definitely keep an ear out and an eye out for that. And with that all being said, I now present the perfect 10 episode of The Closing Tag. Hope you'll enjoy. Maniacs and Hollywoodites. Welcome search optimizers and Python programmers alike. Welcome to another edition of The Closing Tag. Hi, I'm Raul Smith. I am the president, CEO, co-founder, and lead developer for Galactic Blue. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening to the podcast. We are on most of the major platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and more. And just in case you didn't know, we have each and every video episode of the podcast available on our dedicated Facebook and YouTube pages. Links are in the description. When you get there, go say hi, leave a comment, leave a like, sub to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications if you could, please. And as always, we have two amazing sponsors for the pod. The first, of course, being Galactic Blue, your professional web development, graphic design, and logo design resource. Visit galacticblue.net for more information on how your business can benefit from our services. Second being The Telltale Heart, based on the famous Edgar Allan Poe short story, and from the creative and brilliant mind of McLean Lundquist comes the most frightening deep dive into the Sea of Madness. Already racking up multiple awards in the international indie and short film circuits. They recently got selected to a film festival in Argentina and one in Venezuela. So visit telltalemovie.com for more information on where you can find this film. To say we have a ton of stuff to get to after a few weeks off is an understatement. There was a lot of stuff that actually never made it past the initial draft of the show. So let's just dive right into it with some tech news. Nobody cares about my white boy blue. We're starting the tech news segment today with the biggest SEO news to hit in a long time. The massive core update for Google. As of this recording, it's still unclear the extent of impact this update will have, but according to many sources, it's said to systematically change the entire search optimization landscape. PageRank, mobile friendliness, and quality of content are all said to have had a massive impact on the new changes. Google is even said to be considering mobile apps downloadable through the Play Store as a qualification for rankings. As I learn more about these massive changes, I'll report back here on the podcast with what I found out. Additionally, I'm going to be keeping an eye on developments for new versions of both React Core and Bootstrap, as they are going to soon be coming down the pipelines. My understanding is React 18 is in the works and is in alpha. Bootstrap 5, I believe, is now in beta. So once those are out of beta, I will devote time, possibly an entire episode, to all of the features and ways to build amazing websites with those technologies. So we know Python can pretty much do anything these days, right? From data visualization to home security to even machine automation. To learn Python is to learn the way of life and liberty in the 21st century. But is it possible that it can also learn how to detect and localize, possibly even prevent, brain tumors? The columnist for the website Analyticsvidia seems to think it is. In a recent article published on the site, Mahisha Patel not only believes it's possible for Python to detect and localize brain tumors, but goes in great detail on how it was possible using a variety of Python and Pandas. I've included a link in the article in the description of the pod for you to take a look at yourself. It's a very neat and almost scary idea. Also, someone who's lost a loved one because of a brain tumor, I can 100% get behind somebody willing to, help humanity get one step closer to treating this horrible, horrible thing. Finally, in a more lighthearted bit of news, Jeff Bezos is about to become an astronaut. So, in case you haven't been paying attention to the news lately, the richest man alive, owner of Amazon, and the man that may be the closest thing we get to real life Lex Luthor, has announced that he will be on board to personally oversee his company's launch into space. Amazon, with a little help from the American government, is launching their own shuttle into orbit to see if commercial space travel is feasible and financially doable. Now, we've heard for years about other billionaires looking to get into the hypothetical world of commercial space travel. If you remember, Richard Branson, owner of Virgin Mobile, was the first to make noise about having his own commercial space airliner. Remember that? And just recently, after SpaceX successfully launched a Tesla car into orbit, billionaire Elon Musk also announced that it was looking into commercial space travel. But Bezos is so far the only one that's actually put his money where his mouth is and has gone forward with such plans. Now, I know what people are going to say. Why are we putting more money into space exploration when we need to fix problems here on Earth? And you know what? They're probably right. Sea levels are potentially going to rise in the next few years due to melting polar ice caps. Renewable energy is still a source of debate all around, and pollution is at an all-time high. But is it possible to do both? Is it possible to explore our celestial neighbors while fixing the problems here at home? Besides that, space exploration will give us a chance to look at viable options in case the bleep does hit the fan here on Earth, but it also gives us more mining options to help cut down on the emissions here. And let's be honest, it gives Earth an opportunity to be rid of Bezos for a while, which is a win for anybody, really. Nobody cares about my white boy blue. Hi, what's up, guys? This is Raul. We are very deep in the process of the site build for the Closing Tag website. As you can see, we have the archives, home, about, and contact links all lined up ready to go in this beautiful header that has a modified version of the Closing Tag logo, and they are all working functionally. As we progress throughout the process, I will keep you guys updated on what is going to happen, so stay tuned on both Twitch and on YouTube, twitch.tv/galacticblue1, and YouTube, looking for the Closing Tag podcast channel on YouTube, as well as on Facebook. We will be keeping you guys updated on the podcast as well, so stay tuned for any further information on that. And also, coming up in the next month, I will give you guys a major update on where you may find, once this whole project is done, the actual website for the Closing Tag podcast. You guys are going to absolutely love what I have to say about that, so stay tuned, and I will keep you guys abreast as we go along. Thanks, guys. So I'm not going to be that guy to say I told you so on a podcast, especially since if you're not a friend of mine on Facebook, you probably never even heard me tell you this. But for those that heard me say that Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather was nothing more than a cash grab and that it would either end in a draw or a judge's decision, I have 4 very simple words for you. I told you so. It's unfortunate because Floyd Mayweather's fight pattern has been very similar for years now. Hype the fight to make it sound like it's the greatest fight ever, collect the money, and dance for 12 rounds. And listen, I grew up on boxing, okay? I grew up watching Wide World of Sports and listening to Howard Cosell call some pretty dang good fights. I grew up watching Julio Cesar Chavez and Mike Tyson and Pernell Whitaker and Lennox Lewis fights with my mom. I remember when boxing was a must-see attraction. But now, thanks to boxers like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, as well as the increasing popularity of MMA, it's almost become an afterthought. So quickly, those of you that are not constantly in like boxing chat rooms online or whatnot, can you even name the last 5 heavyweight champions of the world in boxing? Can you name one not named Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury? It used to be that people would pay $60 hoping for somebody to get knocked out in the second round, and now we've regressed to paying $60 to watch Floyd Mayweather hug. And Floyd apologists, just save your sweet science nonsense, okay? It's a cop-out. It's an excuse to cover up the fact that, I'm sorry, probably going to call me a Floyd hater for saying this, but he's just not that good. The fact is, yes, he has won 50 fights. He's never been defeated. But Floyd should never be mentioned among the greats like Chavez, like Roy Jones Jr., like Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, so on. And that's because the game has changed. The finances of the game has changed. In those days, you didn't come to hug and entertain and put on a show. You came to fight. There was none of this, everybody gets a participation trophy and equal share of the purse garbage. There was none of this or that. You won, you got paid. Nowadays, you win, you get half. You lose, you get half. And, let this be a valuable lesson once and for all the people that keep shelling out $60 to watch these Floyd Mayweather fight, as I loosely term it. There's no need to pay $60 to fights to watch someone hug. You want to watch someone hug? Pay me $10. I'll gladly do it. It'll cost you less and it'll feed me after I'm done. And by the way, that guy I keep referencing, Chavez, Julio Cesar Chavez, kind of went 89-0, knocking out some of the best boxers to have ever graced the ring. He didn't rack up 89 wins by hugging vastly inferior fighters and hapless E-list celebrities for 6 rounds. Just saying. In a surprising but not really turn of events recently, Boston Celtics president of basketball operations Danny Ainge has stepped down, resigned, retired, forced out, whatever you want to use. Head coach Brad Stevens has now moved up to the role of president of basketball operations and has immediately resigned his post as head coach. So that leaves 2 very glaring questions. Who is the next Boston Celtics head coach? And just what does this mean, or just what is next, rather, for the former president of operations? First of all, and I'm sorry if this offends our BYU listening audience, but there is no way the Jazz should even remotely consider bringing Danny Ainge in, even as a consultant. He's out of his touch. He rubs players the wrong way, especially after his last comments about Black Lives Matter. And he is just not that good. His track record early on in Boston was great. Being able to put together that 09 team or 08 team, whatever year it was, that ended up winning the championship. But ever since then, signing Gordon Hayward and whatnot, it's progressively gone downhill. I think he should retire legitimately, or possibly even consider the athletic director role at BYU, since the alum there want him to come home so badly. And hey, If he does consider the AD role at BYU, I happen to know a cool golf spot in Lehigh. Just saying. Second, whoever the next head coach is for the Celtics should consider the history of that position. Over the, 70, 80-year history of the Boston Celtics, 17 coaches, including Stevens. Very few coaching positions has seen the stability and the lack of turnover that the Celtics have. Right now, the names being tossed around include Terry Stotts, who was recently released by the Portland Trail Blazers, Nate Bjorkgren, who was let go by the Indiana Pacers, and San Antonio assistant Becky Hammon, who is being pegged by many teams throughout the league. However, just a few hours ago, before I started recording this, turns out that the Celtics are on the verge of, if they haven't already, hired Brooklyn Nets assistant Ime Udoka. So, whoever the new coach is, whether it be Udoka or Hammond or whoever, they will have a tall task ahead of them trying to get one of the NBA's most storied franchises back on track. And perhaps that head coach's, or Brad Stevens as Celtics president, first and highest priority task would have been what to do with all-star point guard Kemba Walker. The former Hornet and Celtic has vocally expressed disinterest in continuing to play for the organization, going so far as to demand a trade. Well, ask and ye shall receive, because the Celtics have in fact traded Walker and the 16th overall pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Al Horford. The same Al Horford, who, by the way, already washed out with the Celtics once before. And yeah, other pieces were involved as well, but we'll let history dictate if those pieces will mean anything. The fact is, the Celtics gave up a first-round pick to get rid of a toxic player and toxic contract just to gain another bad contract in the process? Or did they? Word on the street is Horford may be on the move again soon. Now, on the surface, this doesn't look like it would be possible. However, doesn't look like that would be possible. He's on the wrong side of 35, due to make $27 million next season and $26.5 million the year after that. However, there is a quirky little clause in that contract that only guarantees the 2023 season, the $26.5 million, if his team makes it to the NBA Finals. An expiring contract coming off the books the following off-season is always a nice little carrot to dangle in trade talks, especially come trade deadline time. And if there's one thing we know about Boston, it's that they love talking trades. As for Kemba, he may also not be done moving. Because if there's one team that loves trades more than Boston, it's the Thunder. Just ask about the 18 first-round picks that they currently own over the next 6 years. In fact, word on the street, as of this morning, is that they may be looking to package Kemba Walker and their 2 first-round picks, pick number 6, pick number 16, to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, who is apparently already worn out his welcome in Philly, both with the fans and with his team. See example, Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers' comments about him not shooting the ball. So I'm going to change this ad read up a little bit since I got the last one right with no errors last time. Descending into madness with the retelling of the classic Edgar Allan Poe short story, the award-winning Telltale Heart film takes a head-first deep dive into the sea of madness, retelling a classic psychological thriller with a mind-bending, pulse-pounding, bloody disgusting film, starring award-winning actor Sonny Grimsley and directed by the brilliant McLean Lundquist. The Telltale Heart has won awards and made appearances in many short film and indie film festivals, ranging from the Film Quest Film Festival in Provo, Utah, to the Minefield Film Festival in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and even international film festivals throughout the world, such as Argentina and Venezuela. Revisit Edgar Allan Poe's short story, as this film brings more than just a classic horror story to a new audience, but also discovers a creative way to explore the groundbreaking psychological thriller. The narrative is enhanced through an unprecedented use of sounds and light, and the characters blend a modern sensibility with anachronistic charm, as seen through an unsettling array of time and space, while a shifting setting disorients the unwitting audience. What is seen and what is heard leads the perplexed audience to ask, what is insanity and what truly constitutes reality? TelltaleMovie.com for more information on this brilliantly insane thriller. The Closing Tag is honored to have them as a sponsor of the podcast. So this next opinion, take, rant, whatever you want to call it, is going to seem a little out of left field, understandably. It's going to involve a topic that I like, that I don't necessarily like to bring up very often, but it is something I follow very judiciously. Pro wrestling. Particularly the biggest name in professional wrestling, sports entertainment, World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE. The issues that WWE seem to be going through right now can be dated as far back as 2000, when the company was made public and stockholders began to have far more influence in the company than before. Can also just go as far back as when they signed the deal with Fox to broadcast their Friday night show SmackDown back in 2019. In any event, the company is looking more and more likely like it's going to be sold. Let's take a look at some of the evidence that could be leading to this, okay? Back in 2014, WWE originally launched their very own streaming platform called, shockingly enough, the WWE Network. This network would become home for the following 6 to 7 years to major events like WrestleMania and SummerSlam, original programming like NXT, Table for Three, and Legends House, and classic archived programming. So if, for instance, you want to rewatch the classic Austin 316 promo and the match that spawned that promo, the King of the Ring 1996, in case you're wondering, you can go on the network, find the program using their robust search feature, and click play. However, within the last year, the network has begun a very painfully slow transition from being an independent platform all on its own to being an extension of the NBC Universal streaming platform Peacock, in which for an additional added monthly fee added to your subscription, you can watch WWE programming on Peacock. But that's not all. Staff cuts in the corporate office have been ramping up as of late. Rumors of the company closing its corporate office in Stamford, Connecticut in 2022 have begun to circulate. Even talent roster cuts have raised a number of red flags, clearing many deals that guaranteed larger salaries for longer-term deals and making way for shorter-term, more cost-effective deals. Most recently, talented, valuable members of the talent roster, including Braun Strowman, Tommy End, aka Aleister Black, Heidi Lovelace, aka Ruby Riott, and Samoa Joe, who actually recently returned to the company's NXT brand as an on-air enforcer of sorts, were released without much of a warning. Now, on the surface, fans have pointed to the mental health and well-being of Vince McMahon as a possible cause for why all of this is happening. After all, the owner of WWE is 76 years old and hasn't exactly been looking like his younger, more vigorous self lately. But these kind of moves are usually what takes place right before a company is getting ready to be sold. Now, that's not necessarily a sign that the sale will happen soon or even this year, but a deal could be on the way. And there's a good chance if it does happen, NBC Universal will be the first in line. After all, their Peacock service now has exclusive rights to the WWE Network, housing thousands of hours of programming and content. Also keeping in mind, WWE and NBC have had a very long-standing, very storied relationship dating as far back as the classic Saturday Night's Main Events that used to air back in the 80s and 90s. So what would a deal like that mean for the industry as a whole? Nothing good. A lot of frustration with the current WWE product revolves around stories about how, after his writing team spends hours putting together the live television shows every week, Vince McMahon comes in, tears up the script, and rewrites the entire show himself, sometimes an hour before the show is scheduled to go live on the air. This results in a lot of repeated matches, storylines with little to no consistency, and promos and interviews that feel overly rehearsed and lacking of emotion. The belief in some circles is that WWE programming would improve without the last-second input from McMahon. However, just because a company is sold doesn't mean the previous owner wouldn't still have input. He could still stay on board as a minority stockholder with freedom to continue running the day-to-day operations. He could even stay on as head of creative or talent, or even president of operations. They could even give him his own special position within the company that's made up just for him. It could also be that with 8 or 9 people that have no clue how to write a live television show, but much less a wrestling show, putting their input in, things will be even more clustered and more chaotic than it is now. Unfortunately, at least in this country, in the United States, the wrestling scene is not that great outside WWE in terms of money making and household name recognition. All Elite Wrestling, or AEW, is the number 2 shop in the land, with a weekly program on TNT and having such names as Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and Darby Allin headlining their shows. Ring of Honor was a solid number 2 for years, but has since slipped considerably. Mismanagement and a change in ownership are the main causes for why this is happening. Impact Wrestling, formerly known as TNA, has slipped further than Ring of Honor in some respects, though it still remains on Access Television and features stars from various promotions, including Kenny Omega, Sami Callihan, and the Good Brothers. Many fans are looking to companies outside the United States, like New Japan Pro Wrestling, to get their weekly wrestling fix, but without a mainstay anchor here in the States, New Japan will likely remain a niche product. So, yes, a change in WWE could potentially benefit them, but it could also make the situation there and throughout the entire wrestling landscape far worse. As a wise man once told me, sometimes it's better to dance with the devil you do know than the devil you don't. At least that way you anticipate getting burned. And with that, we are out of time for today. I want to thank each and every person that is watching the archive videos on YouTube, downloading the pod, even checking us out on our Facebook page. Links, you know the drill. They're all in the description. Every video, every view, every download, every listen counts. So thank you as always. A reminder that this podcast is sponsored by Galactic Blue, your professional web development, graphic design, and logo design resource. Visit galacticblue.net for more information on how your business can benefit from our services, as well as the Telltale Heart, the indie short film, horror film that's just sweeping all the film festivals right now. Visit telltalemovie.com for more information on where you may be able to find it in your area. If you'd like to help sponsor the podcast, we're working on a Patreon. It's not live yet, but we're working on it. And I'm always open to suggestions. Hit me up at Raul@galacticblue.net. We are on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and many other podcast providers. Our video of each and every podcast can be found on our dedicated YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page. Links for all of these can be found in the description. A reminder to check us out on the Galactic Blue Twitch channel every Monday as we're continuing to build out the website for the Closing Tag podcast. I may or may not have a major announcement this coming Monday, June 28th, I believe it is. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys again so much for listening and for watching. And remember to always include your closing tags.
On that, our presentation.